Kari Lake has just failed in her appeal of the Arizona governor's race. Her court case is done, gone. She will never be governor. But she also just failed in an attempt to swipe at Ron DeSantis as part of the ongoing legal battle in Florida, the DeSantis versus Disney legal battle. Of course, we've been covering that on this channel, so I said we've got to jump in here because this is very important, particularly as Ron DeSantis looks like he may declare his presidential run for 2024. So as we have this heating up, you're going to see this Republican infighting, right? So people that are going to be in the Trump camp, people that are going to be in the DeSantis camp, you're going to see this infighting happen, and people are going to make ignorant statements about the Disney and DeSantis legal battle. And this is something, look, I want to clarify. I don't care whether you vote for Trump or DeSantis. That's not what it's about. It's about facts, and facts over feelings. And in this case, we're going to sort out her statements and where she went wrong. I understand people may feel strongly about this. You may be pro-Kari, you may be pro-Trump in terms of supporting their campaign. That's perfectly fine. But I think we need to be a little bit more careful when we make false statements, because it just makes us look like a fool. When you go out there and you say things that are not accurate, that are misrepresentations, it makes everybody look bad. As always, this is Legal Mindset. We teach you to be your own judge. And I'm Andrew Esquire, a Florida attorney specializing in special districts who happens to know a little bit more about this than the average bear. Now, look, I don't know if anybody is ready for 2 years of campaigning, because now we're hyping up into the political season, into the campaign trail, where the rest of this year, next year, we're just going to hear about politics. We're getting into that season where it's going to be full on, no matter where you are in the world. I'm over here in Korea right now, whether I'm here or in Thailand or in Japan or anywhere else I am in the world, we're going to hear about American politics for the full next year, and the name of all the candidates is going to be put out there, including, for example, Ron DeSantis. All signs point to the fact that very shortly he will declare. In fact, by the time this video goes up, he may have declared already and made that launch. It looks like he's going to do it on Twitter with Elon. And you can feel whatever way you want to feel about Ron DeSantis as president, because in my book, a person as president is an entirely different job as governor. So the governor role, it just has different functions. It deals with specific state issues, and it really is focused on the citizens of that state and whether or not they think that state has been governed effectively. And if somebody asked me as a Floridian who was there for many years of DeSantis, has he governed Florida well? Objectively, that's undeniable. And I love how people now are trying to sully that. They're trying to smear that. Absolutely ridiculous. People like Nancy Pelosi would not be buying homes in Florida if it was such a horrible place. And despite whatever warnings, and yes, there was actually a travel warning put on Florida by the NAACP, which is laughable, but despite all their hate and whatever they try to say, people are still moving to Florida en masse. They're still buying houses there. Electoral votes are still shifting down there. And they're going to continually shift from horribly run states like New York and California to places like Florida and Texas, which are offering much more business-friendly environments. So this is going to be a trend that's happening. And so people look at the governors, and they look very, very hard at those governors. And the battle with Disney is very much tied to his role as a governor. Because in your role as a governor, you're out to look for all of the people of the state, all of the corporations of the state, all of the businesses, including small businesses of the state. You are not out to just look out for the corporate welfare of Disney. And I know Disney is very used to that. They're used to favoritism. They're used to benefits. They're used to special benefits. In fact, we looked at the other day, their development that they were going to build in Lake Nona, which everybody is saying, oh, they were building almost $1 billion in Lake Nona. Well, we figured out, first of all, it's only, 800 something million. But second of all, 2/3 of that money was coming from taxpayers in the state of Florida. Taxpayers were going to pay 2/3 of that through the form of subsidies. Because mind you, what a subsidy is it's saying that corporation is not paying their fair due, and instead the taxpayers are going to pay what would otherwise be contributed to by those corporations through either their corporate income tax or other taxes they might pay and other subsidies they might pay, whether at the local level, the county, city level, or at the state level. And once again, that's something that Disney has been hiding. The mainstream media has been hiding that for them, that the majority of their funding of that Florida project was indeed coming from the state. So the fact of the matter is, with their falling stock price, with the economic conditions, with their failings in the box office, Disney pulling out of this is not as much of an L for Florida as people might think. In fact, it might be more of a W, because they might get in a better project that's going to pay its fair share. And now we look at the political side, and we look at Ron DeSantis dealing with Disney. And there's a specific take here I want to focus on, because she comes in and talks about Florida law without knowing about it. So let's pay attention to Kari Lake and as she opines on Florida here.
But we can't do it half-assed. When you pick a fight with Disney, you need to play to win. And so far, Governor DeSantis has been outworked and outmaneuvered by Disney.
Okay, so that's the first comment, that they've been outworked and outmaneuvered by Disney. That is a lie. That is a misrepresentation. Most of the mainstream media, and I assume that Kari, like most people, is probably relying on mainstream media, probably relying on favorable sources. They absolutely have not. DeSantis and Florida in general, especially the district, the Central Florida Tourism Oversight District, has not. There's a state case that has been filed. That case is going to undercut that federal case. Those issues of the development agreements, restrictive covenants, which we've been talking about, which were illegal under Florida law, void ab initio, as we would say, when the court determines that, as the court must, that's going to completely undercut their federal case. There's no outmaneuvering. Disney did something illegal. They did something that was not permissible under Florida law. Therefore, it was voided. Those contracts were voided. Those actions were voided. That's not an outmaneuvering of Disney. That's a desperate, amateurish move by lawyers that know nothing about special district law, nothing about Florida real property law, or they just chose to ignore it because it plays into their bigger political scheme, their bigger message, which is, wah, wah, we're being picked on by the mainstream media. We're being picked on by DeSantis, right? So Disney is able to tell the mainstream media that we're being picked on by DeSantis. That's what they really want in terms of a narrative. And it plays into the election cycle. Because remember, Bob Iger is a huge, massive Democrat. He is hard blue. So he wants this to be as much of a divisive issue as possible, and he wants to make it as political as possible and tee it up for people who don't know any better to run with. And this is one of those stories that we're going to see a lot of Republicans losing credibility on, because they're going to speak on it and they're going to know nothing. And this is a trap I don't want them falling into. I don't want Kari Lake to make ignorant statements on this. In fact, I actually truly hope that Kari Lake gets educated on this issue and comes up and understands that Florida law dictates that what Disney did was wrong. It's clear. There's no outmaneuvering here. There's no procedural maneuvers that give them a huge advantage. So I hope that Kari can actually fix that understanding of Florida law. I hope that she just genuinely didn't know. She'll go out there, she'll get educated. One of you guys will forward the video to her and she'll get educated on it. I genuinely hope she knows, because otherwise it makes her look like a fool. And frankly, the rest of the statement gets even worse.
As far as I know, Reedy Creek still exists.
That's incorrect as well. So she just said Reedy Creek still exists. That is incorrect. That is not true at all. Reedy Creek as an entity is completely gone forever. It will never come back. It cannot come back. It's been sunsetted by statute. There's no way to peel back that onion, so to say. The best they could probably do is, if they wanted to reform the CFTOD, they might pass a second bill to kind of reform that and make some changes. But frankly, if anything, it should just be completely pared down, and it should have the same powers as a community development district, just like Celebration, just like Bonnet Creek, just like Reunion, just like any of the other neighboring communities all around Disney. So they should just be pared down and their powers should be stripped, if anything, to even less than they have now. That's what I think under Florida law. But in terms of going back to Reedy Creek, that is never going to happen. Disney will never go back to solely controlling this with no input from the outside and no accountability to the outside. So this statement about Reedy Creek existing is incorrect. It's obviously the Central Florida Tourism Oversight District.
They're still hosting trans events at their park. This indoctrination is continuing, and they're
So those events are something that it's very difficult for a state to control, right? So that's your private business, your private entity. And look, if people would scream up and down if Ron DeSantis came down and said you can't hold these events. Now, I think the bigger thing, which I think Ron DeSantis has said, and all Floridians have gotten behind, is look, we're just going to stop going. We're just going to stop buying tickets. We're going to stop going to movies. We're going to stop buying your media. And we're seeing boycotts work. They're working with Bud Light right now. Absolutely devastating Bud Light. Bud Light is having to give away their beer. So I think this is working. I think this is going to work. We put the economic pressure on them and we say, look, we're not going to do this anymore. We're not going to renew our annual pass. We're not going to be coming back. You just have to put your foot down at some point and say, look, it's not worth it. They're going to turn around and use this for propaganda. They're going to outsource their events to people that openly want to convert children specifically, and just don't give them your money. It works.
actually rubbing it in the faces of American families. You know, if you can't beat Donald Duck, how are you going to beat Donald Trump? I think that's the question we have to ask when it comes to Governor DeSantis. And I think,
and of course, she worked on that line for so long, right? That's her you know, her tagline there. But of course, for me, for Kari Lake, it's very hypocritical, particularly since she's lost her lawsuit. In DeSantis, I guarantee you, in those lawsuits, ultimately DeSantis and the state of Florida, because mind you, this is really the state of Florida that's benefiting. The state of Florida is going to win those cases. It's going to happen. I'm going to cover it every step of the way. I'm going to cover the W every step of the way. But the state of Florida will win this in the long run. You cannot beat the state of Florida. So her calling this for Disney before this has even gone to trial at all is a really bad take. And I know it sounds funny, and I think she's probably testing it for Donald Trump, right? You know, it got a giggle here. So, you know, okay, maybe we're going to use this line again, right? You know, Donald Duck and Donald Trump. Okay, I get it, right? But the court case, it's going to be long. That court case is going to be long. Unless Disney pulls back or pulls out, right? That's going to be something that's extended over time. So you're going to see eventually that W come. It may not ultimately come during election season, but it will eventually come down the pike. I guarantee that.
I think he should stay in Florida and continue fighting for the people there and try to finish that fight. I'd rather see President Trump, who's a deal maker, who can make things happen, take on woke corporations. And I know for a fact he gets results.
Okay, so he's trying to pitch Donald Trump as the one that's going to get results against woke corporations. We really haven't seen that, though, too much in terms of direct battles that he's taken to woke corporations. But I want to know what you guys think in the comment. By the way, make sure you like this, subscribe. We are almost at 100K, guys. If you're not subscribed, make sure you check in, because I know the majority of you that watch these videos are not subscribed. And if you guys do it right now, subscribe, we'll get to 100K. It's going to be fantastic. But let me know in the comments, do you think that Donald Trump does a better job of handling woke corporations, or do you think that's Ron DeSantis? I want to know in the comments below. That being said, guys, I'll stay on top of this and all your favorite news. Catch you later. Peace.